The shelter gave him 24 hours to live. But when a stranger knelt before his cage and whispered, "You're not alone," the broken German shepherd did something no one expected. He reached out. The animal shelter was a place of muffled whimpers and echoing barks, a limbo for creatures caught between abandonment and hope. In the farthest cage, Shadow, a German shepherd with a coat marred by scars, lay motionless. His ribs pressed against his fur, and his eyes, once sharp and alert, were now dull pools of resignation. The shelter staff had long stopped trying to coax him out. He was labeled aggressive after flinching from too many hands. The truth was simpler. Shadow wasn't dangerous, just shattered. He had learned that barking didn't bring help, that trust led to pain. Now, his paperwork stamped with a looming euthanasia date, he curled tighter into the corner of his cage, as if making himself smaller might delay the inevitable. The other dogs howled for attention, but Shadow stayed silent. He'd already given up. Lena sat on her apartment floor, scrolling mindlessly through her phone after another exhausting shift at the animal clinic. She'd always wanted a dog, but life, rent, long hours, self-doubt, kept getting in the way. Then she saw it, a grainy photo of Shadow shared by the shelter. His eyes, even in pixels, held a plea she couldn't ignore. The caption was a gut punch. Last chance, scheduled for euthanasia tomorrow. Her fingers trembled as she dialed the shelter's after-hours line. The voicemail beeped and she blurted, Don't put him down. I'll be there first thing." Hanging up, she stared at Shadow's photo. What am I doing? She had no experience with traumatized dogs, but as she packed a leash and treats, a quiet certainty settled over her. This dog deserved more than a cold metal cage as his final memory. The shelter smelled of bleach and fear. Lena followed the manager to Shadow's cage, her stomach knotting at the sight of him, smaller in person, his ears flat against his skull. When the manager warned, "He's bite risk," Lena shook her head. "Let me try." Crouching, she offered her hand, palm up, and waited. Minutes passed, then a twitch of his nose, a hesitant sniff. Shadow's breath warmed her fingers, and for the first time in months, his tail gave the faintest tremor. The manager sighed. "Fine, but you're signing a waiver." Paperwork signed, leash clipped, Lena led Shadow to her car. He resisted, planting his paws on the pavement as if expecting a trick. "It's okay," she murmured, kneeling to his level. "You're safe now." The words felt too big, too hopeful. But when Shadow finally stepped into the car, Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Shadow's first days in Lena's apartment were marked by silence. He refused the plush bed she'd bought, opting to sleep pressed against the front door, as if guarding against invisible threats. Lena adapted. She ate dinner on the floor to be near him, left the TV on for background noise, and pretended not to notice when he flinched at sirens. Then, one evening, as she typed reports on her laptop, warmth brushed her leg. Shadow stood there, his muzzle resting against her knee. Lena froze, terrified any movement would spook him. Slowly, she lifted a hand. Shadow tensed, but didn't retreat. Her fingers grazed his ear, and he exhaled sharply, as if releasing years of held breath. That night, for the first time, Shadow slept on the dog bed, curled in a tight ball. But there, Lena cried into her pillow, overwhelmed by the weight of his tiny victory. 2 months in, Lena noticed the car, a black sedan parked across the street for hours, its windows tinted. Shadow noticed it too, his growl low, his hackles rising. That night, she Googled Shadow's shelter records and found a redacted note. Possible ties to illegal operations. Her blood ran cold. Dogfighting. The pieces fit, his scars, his fear of raised hands. When she called the shelter for details, the manager hesitated. We had a man ask about him last week. Knew his old name. Lena's grip on the phone tightened. That evening, the car returned. Shadow stood at the window, a deep snarl building in his chest. Lena locked the doors and dialed 911, but the car vanished before the police arrived. She stroked Shadow's head, her voice shaky. "I won't let them take you." Rain hammered the windows like gunfire. Lena jumped at every thunderclap while Shadow paced, his nails clicking on the hardwood. Then, a creak on the porch. Shadow lunged, barking with a ferocity Lena had never heard. A shadow moved outside the door. The knob rattled. "Police are coming," Lena shouted, grabbing a fire poker. Shadow's barks turned guttural, his body blocking her from the door. The intruder cursed, and footsteps retreated. Peering through the blinds, Lena watched the black sedan speed away. When the police arrived, they found her on the floor, arms wrapped around Shadow, both trembling. "He protected me," she whispered. The officer nodded. "You should disappear for a while." Lena's childhood farmhouse stood at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by fields. Shadow hesitated at the car door, sniffing the unfamiliar air, then bolted. Lena laughed as he tore through the grass, kicking up dew, his barks joyous. That night he sprawled on the rug by the fireplace, his belly exposed for the first time. Lena knelt beside him, scratching his chest. "This is home," she said. Shadow licked her wrist, his eyes bright. In the distance, lightning flickered, but the storm had passed.